In 1949, the guns of the Second World War were just cooling off, but John Wayne was on fire as the biggest movie star of his generation. America was triumphant and enjoying a nuclear monopoly in a brief moment of peace. Audiences were thrilled to watch the Duke and a cast of frequently bare-chested young men take on the Japanese Empire in the Sands of Iwo Jima. Maybe some of those audience members were a little more thrilled than others. The first big picture to show the war in the Pacific, Sands set the tone and the bar for all future depictions of the largest military campaign in world history. These two old white guys are always trying to think outside the box, so we sat down to watch a black and white war movie where America wins. Get some of your favorite bourbon and sip as you join us. It's time for episode 98 of Toasting the Classics, The Sands of Iwo Jima.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of Toasting the Classics. What, do you have to repeat everything? I say it like
Yeah.
like as
I'm your Mino. I'm your Mino. Mino to your
as if I have a
over
cue
here.
card. My name is Clint Lanier.
I am Dave McArthur.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
How about them dulcet tones?
My name is Dr. Clinton.
Oh, God.
Dr. Professor Clint Lanier.
PhD in tedium.
This is the podcast where we take something that people call classic and we look at it, we taste it, we lick it, we
Smack it up, flip it, rub it down.
Rub it down, hey! And,
Whoa, no!
And then we decide whether it's a classic or not. But today we are...
Apparently we're doing Belle Biv DeVoe's 1989 classic, Poison.
Right.
No.
We are looking at...
We're going to be talking about the thespian stylings of the Duke himself, John Wayne.
That's right.
In a little film called The Sands of Iwo Jima.
The Sands of Iwo Jima.
Which I had never seen.
Good.
New to me.
So the reason I decided...
Don't have a big track record with John Wayne, to be perfectly honest.
We don't, do we?
I personally do not have a... We've done Longest Day. And he's one of the actors in Longest Day.
Right. Yes.
But I have seen True Grit.
Okay.
I recently watched The Quiet Man, which is not like your traditional John Wayne.
It's
but
a great
movie. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Until he slaps what's her name upside the head.
I would have thought that would have been your favorite part. I would have thought you had that GIF all over everything.
Well, I am from New Mexico.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what that means, but...
Me neither.
So that's about all I've seen is those couple of movies. I'm pretty sure I must have watched some of the early ones. We talked about Stagecoach the other day.
Right.
I think I saw that when I was a kid, but I would like to watch that again. I kind of dig John Wayne. Like, he's fun. He's fun to watch. He's got a lot of charisma.
So the reason I asked you, so this is my pick, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right.
Lady and gentlemen,
right.
Two people that listen to us.
Oh, I would love if a lady listened to this podcast.
Really?
Are there any ladies out there listening? I hope so.
Maybe it's a lady that was a gentleman.
We try to bring the feminist perspective every once in a while because it would be very easy for this to be two old white guys talking from our perspective.
What are you talking about, man? I am effeminate as can be. Okay.
I'm not effeminate, but I let feminism affect my philosophy of life, I think. It's a part of it.
That's good. Well, okay, and speaking of feminism, I chose this movie because I wanted a 6'5" tall drink of water in my life.
Is that John Wayne? Is he 6'5"?
John Wayne.
Big man.
I think he is 6'5". Yeah.
Do you know how much he weighed when he was born?
5 pounds?
13 pounds.
13 pounds.
13 pounds. I know it's Iowa. He was from Iowa? Which, by the way,
I just said 5 because I have no idea how.
Many of the great Americans were born in Iowa, I have to say.
Were they?
Yes.
Like what? Like
John Wayne, Captain Kirk, and yours truly, Dave McArthur.
Captain Kirk was that.
Captain Kirk is from Iowa.
Okay, the character.
Yeah, the character. Yeah, William Shatner's Canadian.
Yes.
Yes, but
that's all that counts.
The character, Captain Kirk.
No, William Shatner is Captain Kirk. You can't separate the two of them.
Well, what about Chris Pine? You're not giving Chris Pine any credit for having played Captain Kirk? You just completely forgot about that?
I don't even know who the heck Chris Pine is. What are you talking about? There's only one Captain Kirk. What?
I thought he was a perfectly serviceable Kirk.
Oh, that means that you watched other Star Treks.
The first J.J. Abrams Star Trek was awesome. I love that movie.
Nerd grenade.
And they really went downhill pretty fast.
Okay.
But
so anyway, going back to
the Duke.
So I wanted to watch so the point of this was I wanted to have I just thought, like, we've never done really a war movie. Mm-hmm. So I want to do a war movie, but
I thought
everything recently, like within the past, 20 years maybe, is all a downer. And I thought, well, let's maybe
there's not a lot of heroic war movies from recently, are there?
Well, even heroic, man, they're all dark, right? And I thought, well, maybe let's try this because maybe it'll be a little bit a lighter side. It really wasn't.
No,
still
it's
bad.
not. It's not super. War
Yeah.
seems like a serious endeavor in this movie.
Does it?
It does. I mean, there's definitely people getting killed, and it's a
Yeah.
scary. But it's also not asking any questions about the American role in World War II
No.
at all.
Well,
It's just-
you're absolutely right. No,
Look how awesome it is when
Yeah.
this guy sets Japanese people on fire with a flamethrower.
Well, you start
You know,
sort of okay. So this was made in 1948.
I got
okay.
49, but
Okay,
yeah,
49.
that's
so
borderline my top surprise. I thought this movie was from the 60s.
it was early.
I didn't do any reading. I just watched
We're-
it cold.
We're like 5 years removed from when this battle actually
But it opens
happened,
up and it's
right?
like 3 survivors of raising the flag on Suribachi. And I'm like, oh, it must have been in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I realized, no, those guys, that's the mortality rate of
Yeah.
fighting on land in the Pacific.
Can you
was
imagine?
that
God.
if you were the guy on Mount Suribachi, you probably got killed later in the war.
Yeah.
Because you were fighting, really bloody combat. So
Yeah.
this is before Okinawa.
Yes.
I think more Americans died on Okinawa than died in Gettysburg, if you're including both sides of the Battle of Gettysburg.
All right. So,
Anyway.
all right, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Let's not get too much
Why do you
into
do
that
that?
history. I don't know.
let's.
That means I'm feeling it. I'm on the bus.
Let's do
I'm
a
on the
summary.
bus
Let's do a
tonight.
summary. He shouldn't even be saying that because that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's
Where
right.
that reference
I
is
hardly
from. What is he
remember
doing?
that. Yeah, I hardly remember.
Anyway, we're taping these back to back, ladies and gentlemen.
We have.
So-
I mean, it's great.
So
normally we would pretend
so
we
he
didn't.
is riding the alcohol high of the previous
yes.
podcast.
So I'm hoping this is going to end up like Enter the Dragon and just be a complete.
I hope not.
You know
'cause
what show?
God bless.
But that was good.
Anyway.
I had to cut out the parts where Clint became completely insensate towards the end of that episode. I'm hoping we have some of those here.
It was great. Yeah, I could never run for Congress because of that episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I cut out the bad stuff.
I appreciate
cut out the
that,
bad
but you
stuff,
still
yeah.
have it.
I do
So
still.
you could blackmail.
Ooh, that's a good point.
You could
That's a good
blackmail me
point.
anytime you want.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So let me give you a quick summary, everybody.
Okay.
We have a Marine assault group.
Right.
So it's a squad rather, and it's led by this guy named
Let's
John.
start where it starts. December 7th, 1941. No,
Right.
sorry. All right.
So you have a rifle squad, the Marine Corps.
Rifle squad. They said that phrase multiple times like it was something we were learning. They were like, these guys are in a
Rifle squad,
And I'm
yeah.
like, that's just 2 words that go together.
I think that's a big deal in the Marine Corps. Like, you're a rifleman.
okay.
Like, you're
Rifleman,
you're
yeah.
the
Sure.
infantry grunt,
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so these are the guys in the South Pacific doing what was called island hopping at the time.
Why did we do island hopping? What was that all about?
Well, let's come back to that.
Okay.
Let's come back to that.
You
'Cause
got to be
there's-
careful. I might
there's-
get into military history because it is
No,
kind of my
there's,
bag.
there's
so we're
questions
gonna,
there's questions about that,
Yeah.
especially the why. But anyway, so they're led by by a sergeant. He's just a sergeant. He's not a staff sergeant. He's not a
No.
sergeant major or anything else.
He's not allowed to tell staffs what to do.
Right.
Just
he
people,
can't tell
right.
staffs what to do.
He's not a master sergeant.
Can't tell masters what
I don't
to
know
do.
what that is. I don't know what a master
He can't tell
sergeant is.
masters how to bait their lions, whatever.
Right.
He is just a normal guy with a sergeant. Mm-hmm. And his name is John Stryker.
John Stryker. I didn't catch the John. I just Stryker.
John
Stryker. We have a armored vehicle in the United States Army today called the Stryker.
Named
and
after
I was thinking, is it named after the fictional?
Named after Stuart Stryker.
Is it?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Stuart Stryker was a member of the 101, 101st.
Oh, okay.
And was just a Billy badass.
A real person.
A real person.
Yeah, okay, good, cool.
Not a fictional character by John Wayne. Wouldn't that be terrible? No, it was John Stryker.
Do we have any military vehicles named after fictional characters? Is there
That's a
like
good point.
like an Uncle Sam tank or something like that?
You know, I know that there are Alex Jones listeners out there that would say they were all fictional characters, Dave.
Right.
Come on.
Is anything named after the people that went to the moon? Because they're not real.
Because they're not real.
Right.
Neil Armstrong, please. Come on. I mean, what kind of name is that?
Yep.
Okay, so
I was listening to a podcast, an astronomy podcast the other day, and they were interviewing an astronomer named like John Starfield. Like, that's not
Just
your
perfect.
real name.
Yeah, that's
that's
not
not
your
your
real
real name.
I actually saw it during the eclipse a couple of weeks ago. Saw a great meme and had the picture of the sun, and it had like this little flat shadow in the middle of it. It's
Okay.
flat Earth, solar eclipse. I thought that was great. Good, you know, right? Because the orientation.
Yeah.
So so back to what we were talking about. So
We're talking about the 1949 film Sands of Iwo Jima.
Sands of Iwo Jima. John Wayne plays John Stryker.
John Wayne, John Stryker,
Right. I think they did that on purpose
probably.
because he couldn't remember.
Probably couldn't remember. a
What's my
different
name again? Bob?
It's John.
No, it's John.
Yeah.
Derek? What? No, John. Jeez. So he's the sergeant of this particular rifle squad, as we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And
Rifle Squad.
It's really dark. Like
From the
nobody
files of
likes
Rifle
him.
Squad.
Everybody hates him.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a real jerk to all of them.
Well, he's a real jerk in the sense that he thinks that they should not drop their rifles in the mud and like not shoot at the Japanese, and maybe they should try not to get killed in a battle. What a jerk!
Know how to bayonet people and stuff like that.
Right.
But the point is, like, nobody in his squad likes him. Like, none of his men like him.
Right. Except one dude. There's one dude that they go back for some reason.
Yeah, they go back. He's like a corporal or something like that. And it turns out this dude's got a lot of problems. His wife left him.
What is this? What happened with the wife? I couldn't quite figure it out.
We don't know.
She just took off?
She just
took
off,
his kid, but it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure what the story was supposed to be there. What are we drinking?
Okay.
Well, Mr. Stryker has a problem with the bottle.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, geez, I'm so sorry.
God. I don't want to end up
golly.
wandering around the streets of Okinawa or Wellington falling down drunk.
Yeah. You're right. See?
What are you trying to do to me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I pour you too much?
I guess I can walk. I can walk back to where I'm staying, I guess.
So Stryker drinks whiskey.
Right.
We found out.
Right, we hear that. He
hear
says that they're drinking whiskey, so we know that. So that's our inspiration.
Well, no, and there's a part where a supposed lady of the night says what he won. He says
bar girl was the term I saw.
Oh, bar girl, and he says just whiskey. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, that was almost up there with biggest surprise for me was that again, like Once Upon a Time in the West, that a prominent female character just was a hooker.
It just was a hooker.
It was subtle, but
with a kid.
And, she's like, you got to be quiet while mommy's working. I'm like, oh, this is dark, man. Like,
so anyway, so he, so the gist of the movie is he shapes a bunch of these non-compliants into shape, and they forge a bond through the Thermidor of War, and
the Thermidor
you like
of
that?
War, nice. Yeah.
And they land on Iwo Jima.
So
and
there's
they
nothing
raise
I
the
like.
flag.
Nothing I like more than a good training montage.
Yes.
Having a bunch of malcontents get together in a squad, get whipped into shape by the hard sergeant. Everybody becomes
Stripes
tough.
with Bill Murray.
But they did that in this quick montage at the beginning, soundless. Mm-hmm. There were no jokes during that. They just kind of. I thought that was a bizarre way to do the characterization.
Tripped. That was kind of funny.
Yeah, but it was all silent. Like there was no talk. I thought that was a really weird way to handle it because that's
silent. There's music playing.
I feel like that's film. That's cinematic gold. The forming of the unit and the training sequences. That's great. You could just like Glory. You've seen Glory, I assume.
I think they probably also shot this in a week. So it was like
maybe.
It was one of those movies where.
Well, it depends on whether you count the pieces of war footage that they spliced into the film.
Exactly, yeah. So this is anyway. So that's the gist of the movie. They go all the way through a couple of islands. I can't remember the name of the
Start out at Tarawa.
Tarawa
is their first big battle,
and then
it's Iwo Jima.
Iwo
So it's
Jima
the two big fights, and they have some downtime in Wellington, New Zealand.
Yeah.
Downtime in Hawaii,
right?
Which actually kind of taught me something. I didn't really realize that they moved the troops so far out of the theater of combat.
I don't remember them going to Hawaii, though. I think that might be.
No, they go to Hawaii. They go.
Well, I know in the movie they did, but I don't know in
I
real
don't
life
know.
if they
That's what I
did.
mean. That's very strange to me.
Because they went to Australia.
There were troops in Australia.
Okay,
yeah, definitely. But.
So there's a book called, and it's a fantastic book. I would recommend it to everybody out there. It's called A Helmet for My Pillow.
By Percy Sledge.
Right.
He was not too proud to beg. That's basically
not too proud to beg.
Yeah. Ain't too.
As a matter of fact, there's the show The Pacific, which was okay. Right. So that one of the characters is based on.
It's Eugene Sledge, I think. Is the guy's actual name.
Just shut up.
Isn't it?
No.
The guy that wrote Helmet for My Pillow is Eugene Sledge.
Lecky is his name. Lecky.
Oh, Eugene Sledge wrote the other one. There's two books that go.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
My bad.
See, folks, what I got to put up with. This is in person even. Imagine this like over thousands of miles.
It'd be a nightmare.
Anyway, so Lecky was the guy, Helmet from a Pillow.
Yeah, that's right.
And have you ever read that one?
No.
Okay, I would highly recommend that one. It's fantastic. But yeah, they go to Australia. Like every book I've ever read about the Marines in World War II, they always go to Australia, not maybe New Zealand, but definitely not back to Hawaii. I mean, that's like
it's weird, right? Yeah,
right?
No, it's weird that they're doing so much backtracking. I mean, you got Japanese submarines like operating out there, and you might die while you're on the. But taking people out of the field of combat is probably a good idea when the combat's this intense.
Yeah, for sure.
This is bad. This is World War I level carnage in these battles. This is bad.
Man,
there's nothing like it for Americans.
It
might be. It might. The weapons are maybe worse.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it in the European theater for American troops.
Right.
We're not in sustained contact with the enemy in this way with these kinds of battles. It's just not like a little bit in Italy, but not a lot. Not like what happens on Iwo Jima and Okinawa. And
so it turns out this guy, John Stryker, who's a complete jerk to all of his men and everything else. All he's trying to do is get them into shape so that they'll survive when they go into war. Right.
Fair enough.
And they're like, what makes this guy tick? Well, it turns out he's got a wife that ran out on him. Took their kid.
Won't let him talk to his kid.
Yeah, won't let him. He sends them letters, never responds. It's been going on for like 5 years. So his thing is like every time they get to leave, he goes out and gets absolutely blasted.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, he's an NCO, I guess.
Yeah.
So it kind of is a little more. That kind of surprised me, like making him a drunk.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that
because
go with
this
that.
is like I think of John Wayne as being like the guy who always wants to be like perfect in the movie.
Well,
like to,
and I think that was sort of the thing about him. So this has a really high. This is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics, and part of it is that John Wayne.
I had some notes, but it's a good movie.
John Wayne was like, a big part of it is John Wayne was not just the aw shucks guy.
No, yeah,
to the whole thing,
much more complicated character.
Yeah, he goes out, gets hammered.
Well, he's nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah,
for this, he doesn't win. He wins for True Grit, which is also a very nuanced, interesting character.
Yes,
I mean, Rooster
right.
Cogburns a great character, just a lot of fun.
Right.
It's a good role for him. He's older and fatter and slower, So,
and that was the thing about this one, man. He was skinny as could be. So I think John Wayne.
But he looks pretty old already. Because I saw a picture of his first movie in 1933, I think it was, and I didn't recognize him.
Well, Stagecoach.
I didn't know who it was.
Stagecoach, he's young as can be.
Yeah, he's like real dark hair.
So his story is he was a college football player.
Okay.
He's 6'5". He's a big dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's a college football player and like messed up his back, and so he can't play pro football. That's where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
So he went into movies. Had him in tons of B movies in like the 20s and
the early
30s.
stuff's not great. Yeah.
And then finally gets into Stagecoach, which was his first like real speaking role, and sort of his breakout role. And then from the 30s on, he's famous as could be.
He's one of the top box office actors in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I think just like Tom Cruise is today, just for decade after decade, just one of the people go to see a John Wayne movie.
Right.
What's this movie? I don't know, but it's got John Wayne in it. So
it's got to be good. Right.
The only person like that for our generation, I think, is Harrison Ford. There was a while there where if Harrison Ford was in a thing,
it's got to be good.
I'll go. I just like watching him. Like it's fine, like
well,
Blade Runner.
And he wouldn't be in a crappy movie.
I mean, he's in a couple of crappy movies, but overall, he's still entertaining to watch.
What crappy movies is Harrison Ford in?
So I don't know if it's crappy, but Mosquito Coast.
I've never even heard of that.
Not great. But he's in it, and he's charismatic. He's fun to watch, but it's not a fun movie to watch. I don't know if Regarding Henry, how we feel about Regarding Henry.
Come on, that was fine. Witness.
But there's other stinkers in there. I'm actually not doing a great job of coming up with them, but there are movies.
Wasn't he in Bonfire of the Vanities, which you talked about last?
He's not. It's Tom Clancy's the main guy. Tom Clancy. Tom Hanks is the main guy.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I don't think Harrison
Dan
Ford's
Aykroyd's in that too, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
maybe as a smaller part. Danny DeVito is in it. Tom Hanks is in it. Melanie Griffith.
Flashback. You know what what a surprise was?
Uh-huh.
Larry McMurtry wrote Terms of Endearment.
I think I knew that.
Heck?
I think I knew that on some level.
idea.
Yeah, that is pretty good. That's good.
Yeah, that was a weird flashback. Sorry, guys. That was what happens.
I'm going to cut that.
When acid.
Actually, I'll cut it and I'll add it to the other show.
When acid cuts in,
right.
It's like an acid flashback. Okay.
Clint and I are about 50 miles west of Las Vegas, and the drugs have started to kick in.
That's right. Yeah. The mescaline and
the ayahuasca and the one you get from the pineal gland of imaginary people. So. Sands of Iwo Jima is an interesting film. It fits in very much. I thought one thing, and I did a little bit of research afterwards. I didn't find this anywhere, but it seemed to me like the Marine Corps must have been on board.
Yes, they were.
Okay,
well, at the very beginning, they run a thing that said, "Thank you to the United States."
Yeah, but I didn't know if they actually, because remember, I don't remember. I'm saying remember like we talked about this before, but Top Gun, the Navy very conspicuously provided vehicles to be used, and it was a great piece of recruiting propaganda for the Navy. I'm sure it was for this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, like I'm a pretty jaded guy.
You
but
are?
at the end of the film, when they put up the flag and like the Marine Corps hymn came up, I was like getting a little misty eyed. I was like, that's a really good ending. I like that. Because there's some corny stuff. There's some corny stuff in the rest of the movie.
They filmed part of it at Camp Lejeune.
Okay.
So they filmed, like especially the training sequences and stuff like that. They filmed it at Marine camps. They used footage that the Marine Corps provided. Mm-hmm. Like you'll notice that when flamethrowers are killing people.
Flamethrower is a nasty weapon.
God bless, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're taking people, if you're like surrender and they're like no, then I guess they get what they get, right? But
it's a really smart weapon, right? Because you have an inch, like 18 inches, like you've got this bunker with 18 inches, like. We could fire into that, or we could just like blow a bunch of gasoline on fire.
It's a really smart weapon. Part of the application of the military technology is a dude with a tank filled with chemicals running through machine gun fire.
Right.
That seems, because if you hit that, if a bullet penetrates that guy's that guy's got a problem. Because I believe the way it works is the two chemicals just come together and create fire. So if those. That's you don't want to be that guy. Like, that would not be fun. But it reminded me of The Deer Hunter. Did you ever see The Deer Hunter?
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they come to pick up De Niro and he's blowing the flamethrower all over the place, which also reminded me. And we have to mention this at least once per podcast episode. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
that was the best part.
Sequence,
where he flamethrows the girl.
Yes, exactly. Pool, so anyway, but
that's the best part in any movie ever.
The flamethrower bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a flamethrower is. Just kind of impressive as a. If I was the Japanese guy, that's where I give up. When a dude comes running up the hill with the flamethrower, I'm like, I did my job. I'm done.
Well, no, not the dude, but a tank with a flamethrower.
Now that was
pretty.
Did they use that in this?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I missed that. I know they exist.
When he's like, I'm gonna go get a bazooka.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, He goes back. He's like, couldn't find a bazooka, so he found a tank with a flamethrower on it. Awesome. I was like, oh, geez, okay. And so what they would show.
That was the Italian guy, right?
Yeah. So we'll get to that, I know. But so what they'll show is if you watch the movie, there's this bunker, and there's a tank. I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry. This morbid laughter. And there's a tank, and all of a sudden you see him spitting flame at this bunker, and the bunker's and everything in it is going up in flame. And that's a really cool piece of cinematic.
I don't want to get too dark here in the podcast, but at the Battle of Okinawa is Iwo Jima is a very lightly populated place, but at Okinawa,
can I finish this real quick?
All right.
That's real footage. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real footage. It's like, oh boy, look at that. Oh, geez, those are real people.
There's real people, but at least those are soldiers. And this is what I'm getting to with Okinawa. Okay. Okinawa turns out to be like actually a populated place with lots of people.
Right.
And the Japanese military convinced the men and women and children, the civilians, that the Americans basically killed everyone. So you had people going into these pillboxes, like women and like old people in these pillboxes, letting themselves be destroyed with flamethrowers because they just didn't want to be, murdered by the Americans.
Oh, geez.
Raped or murdered or whatever it was. So pretty dark stuff. We think of it as being very heroic, which in a sense it is.
Yeah.
It's also really, World War II is the worst thing that ever happened.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
Hands down. Like, the worst thing that ever happened in the history of the world. Like,
all the way around,
Even though it's very heroic because our role as Americans, it wasn't happening in our cities.
Well, it's heroic because we won.
We were on the right side of things. We were on the right side. I mean, we were allied with the Russians, which is a little morally culpable. But
we kind of skip over Dresden. And a bunch of other stuff.
We do,
but
we do, and dropping nukes.
But then again, like Japan's never really answered for Nanking or like a lot of other stuff that they should have answered for.
Well, none of the things that we did in World War II that were bad were any different than any other combatant in the war.
Yeah. Well, no, that's true.
Everybody, I mean, not that makes it okay, but everybody did. Bombing of civilian targets was just how you fought that war. Today, it would be a war crime to burn Tokyo to the ground with babies.
War's a funny thing, isn't it?
Funny might be the wrong word. Certainly an odd. Certainly a.
I think funny in terms of like what an interesting, weird, odd thing.
It is bizarre.
It's
bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
bizarre.
written into our DNA, I believe.
Is it
to fight?
That's
if you have,
that's a shame.
I think so. We have groups of chimpanzees.
Yeah.
They have a territory,
Yeah.
right? And so what the young males do is they'll go wander outside of the territory, and if they encounter someone from the next tribe over, they tear them to pieces and murder them. Man, women, and not. I say him, but no. If they run into a female, whatever
it is, yeah.
And it's exactly what humans do.
Yeah.
If you are out one night and you walk through a pack of 4 young guys, you better be ready for something bad to happen.
Warriors come out and play.
It's exactly it's chimpanzee behavior. It's wired into us. It's lethal raiding behavior, which is what young males do in our species and also chimps.
God, listen to you. You sound so smart.
This is something I'm interested in. But so war itself, I think, is what happens is that chimp behavior.
Yeah.
You give those chimpanzees flamethrowers, and it becomes a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. It's a very strange thing to do, to let yourself be killed for something like a country.
Right.
What a bizarre thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Thank God somebody does it, but what a bizarre thing to do, right? Like it's.
I would hope that you would actually do it for something other than that. I mean,
I think most of us would give our lives to defend our family. Almost everybody would do that, right?
Right.
But you expand it to your country, and it starts to seem a little irrational if you really ask the question. And I think that's.
But I think there. Well, I think there are examples that are bigger and better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought it was very interesting this was filmed in 1949 because what I've always thought about the way we look at World War II is we always set it up against Korea and Vietnam.
Right.
And this is the year before Korea.
Right.
So it's really changes the way I view the thing, right? Because at that time it's just like the American military is heroic. Not that I think we were on the right side in Korea.
Yeah.
100%. I think we were just defending the country of Korea, and that was fine. But I think people started to question it just because it was sort of unsuccessful. No, not unsuccessful. That's not right either, but whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the movie. We're wandering.
A lot of this is part of the movie.
Do you have a John Wayne impression? When I was a kid, everybody had to have a John Wayne impression. Like it was a thing.
Oh, okay.
It was like somebody that I didn't really know who they were, but I knew everybody did an impression of John Wayne. So did you ever do one?
Of course. Everybody did.
So bring it.
So my John Wayne impression is going to be from Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
Okay.
It's because somebody's doing a John Wayne.
Yes.
Okay, right.
So Joker does it in boot camp. Is this you, John Wayne? Is this me? And
that's recognizable as John Wayne.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Arlie Ermy. Who the F said that? Who the F just signed their death warrant? Who just said that? And he's like, sir, I said that. Oh, yeah, a regular Joker, huh? Yeah.
And that's how he gets his name.
Yeah.
No, my impression of John Wayne also comes from the same film, actually, but from the second half of the movie.
Oh, okay.
Really? It's like, you say, no sobra tu boku. Oh, wait, no, that's a different character. Sorry.
That was the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway. So at one point in the movie, they're in a landing craft heading towards the beach.
They are.
And a missile goes over their heads.
Yes.
What?
Huh?
What missile?
Well, the Japanese had missiles. You didn't know that?
No, they had kamikaze planes. They didn't have missiles.
Sure they did.
What kind of missile?
Well, there's a missile.
There's a rocket. There's a rocket artillery barrage at one point.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
That was cool. I like that. That was neat.
I like watching that.
Yeah. I've always wondered what do rockets give to you in terms of artillery versus what regular conventional rifled artillery does? But anyway.
Well, okay, all right. So my uncle, who passed away last year, God bless him, John Hughes, he passed away at 100 years old.
Damn.
So he was all-American hero. He was an Army artillery.
Okay.
And
the best kind of artillery.
Right. And was in the South Pacific. He was island hopping with those guys.
Yeah.
So the Marines would come on, but
is this your great uncle?
So he would have been,
Okay. Because I had a great uncle that fought in the Pacific too.
Yeah, and so he was. It's really fun. He was the commander. I don't know what you call it, of a 105 howitzer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Crew. So 105 howitzer. This thing would shoot.
Big gun.
This shoot 20 miles.
Yeah.
And so the last time I was with him was like 2 years ago. Went to this restaurant. We were talking about it, And he's like, yeah, it's the stupidest thing in the world. We have these darn howitzers. I want you to think about this. 105 howitzer. He's like, this thing would shoot 20 to 30 miles.
Okay.
Do you remember what he said Iwo Jima was? Like how long it was?
It's like not even that big, yeah.
It's 5 miles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's like, this thing shoots 20 to 30 miles, right? And the shells on it are made to, I can't remember what it's called.
Tumble?
No. It's a big freaking bullet, but when it gets when it gets within a few feet of something else, it blows up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I can't remember what it's called. There's a particular name for it, but like, so if you shoot
explosive
this thing,
shell.
well, yeah, it's an explosive shell, but like, so if you shoot it at something, and it's because like, if you have a bunch of tanks or whatever, and there's like 3 tanks and you next to a tank, it'll blow up.
Sure.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's like when you're in a video game and you shoot the barrel so it explodes and kills multiple
And he's like,
guys.
the entire island is nothing but palm trees.
Right.
Yeah, that'll make it explode. Okay, so now you've got a cannon.
So they're exploding at the wrong range.
Yeah, he's like, now you've got a cannon that shoots 5 times as far as the width or the length of this island.
Right.
And if you shoot it, horizontally at something, it'll explode the first time it hits a palm tree.
Thus, the artillerists that we encounter are mortar. It's a mortar squad.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And he's like, and so what you have to do is you have to have the 105 millimeter mortar or howitzer rather, and you have to have it basically straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, you would, and it would be very difficult to sight that way.
He's like, it was the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So he went from island to island to island with this ridiculous thing.
Yeah,
shooting
it's a big old
just
gun.
like that. Yeah,
it's a big
shooting
old gun.
a big gun straight up in the air. Hoping that it'll land like
not on your own guys, and right
2.5 miles away from you. So
the mortar squad thing reminds me of the sequence. So I think we need to talk about the character Thomas.
Which
Thomas is the guy who his buddies are pinned down. Everybody's shooting at them.
Oh, he goes and have his coffee.
And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go get us some ammunition because I'm a good guy. And they're like, yeah, dude, thank you. Go get some ammunition. He goes up and he sits down.
And gets some coffee.
Gets some coffee with the mortar squad. Hangs out for a while. Meanwhile,
this
poor
is good
Greek,
coffee.
the poor Greek gets bayoneted while he's away. I think that guy's but the worst thing he does, I don't know if we should talk about it yet. It's a spoiler. Biggest spoiler of the film, I think.
Which
is what? What's the biggest spoiler of this film?
I don't know.
What happens at the end of this movie that you wouldn't think would happen?
Well, Stryker gets killed.
John Wayne dies.
Yeah.
John Wayne doesn't die in things.
No.
He's eaten by an octopus in one movie. I don't remember what it's called. But otherwise, this man does not die in his films. So he dies. And then as he's dead, Thomas takes his letter he wrote to his child and reads it to the whole squad. And I'm like, I'm thinking, this is great for dramatic effect, but it's kind of a dick move.
Yeah, it's
right?
the worst move. It's hey, I hope I can talk to you before I die. Oh, that's terrible.
Wouldn't want anybody to read this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I thought that was kind of was, but his fist fight with Thomas was good.
That was good.
That's a good bit. Absolutely. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie because, well, actually, one of my favorite things. We were talking about this before about the problem of command, where everybody hates you. And one of my favorite things that happens in war movies is where the guy does something brilliant, but everybody hates him for it, but he just saved all their lives. Yeah. Like in Hunt for Red October, when he figures out how to get the shell to explode too early so that everybody doesn't die, and they think he screwed up and would have gotten them killed in real life, but he just saved all their lives. And it's the same thing with this. When there's a wounded guy past the perimeter when they're fighting, Banks is like out there hurt, and he's like, "Oh, come save me!" And he has to be like, "No, we're not doing it." And everybody's like, "You're just evil."
Yeah, you're an asshole.
But he knows everybody's going to die if they go out there in the middle.
Right.
I like that kind of thing. I like that burden of command sort of thing. Like everybody hates you. Maybe because I'm a dad. I think as a dad, that's pretty much your job. Is everybody hates you for doing exactly the right thing.
Yeah, well, actually, there's so much of that's missing nowadays, right? Because so much of today is I'm going to make you feel good. Yeah, I'll go out there. I'll help you. Yeah, put some salve in your wounds. Blah blah blah.
There's leaders like that, but there's leaders that take the burden too.
But the problem is so much of it is like back then it was you got to wait a little bit before you can
Good bourbon, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Did you mention what it is?
No, it's Jim Beam Black.
Jim Beam Black.
Yeah,
Okay.
7 years Jim Beam Black.
I'm enjoying it.
What you'd have back then is I don't know, you'd have a culture where people would wait for things. They don't wait for things anymore, right?
Yeah, people's attention, not attention span, but yeah, like willingness to wait.
Gratification.
Instant gratification is a problem today in our culture. Yeah, I think that's right.
I think back then that had a little bit to do with it.
That's interesting. Well,
I
think I was rambling.
1949, that's actually a really good point. Okay.
I hope so.
So I'm going to pick up on a point that Dave didn't want to continue on.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
So this came out in 1949, right?
Yep.
All right. Let me just set the scene for 1949.
1949, right.
Okay. The United States of America is the most powerful country that has ever existed. Everybody bows down to us. I'm not being superfluous. I'm not being gratuitous. I'm not doing any oohs at all. If you're an American in anywhere around the world, oh my gosh, you're an American.
Right.
You know, but America just, the way it figured out, like the way it sort of came out was America won the entire war, right?
Yeah.
No, it really did.
Right.
And
that's the way it was portrayed when I was growing up.
In 1948, 1949, we walked tall across the entire globe, okay?
Yeah.
So
the reality of the European war is the Russians won the war.
Well, right.
We were there, but
what I'm saying is like we, the propaganda, whatever it is, we won everything.
Yeah.
And so America could do no wrong. The year this movie came out.
Yeah.
Whatever, this came out, and this is pure propaganda. It really is. And I'll be the first to admit it. It's a good movie as a movie, but it's propaganda. It really is. And so, but
it wasn't flying in the face of anything at the time. There really wasn't any pushback about like I said, pre-Korea, pre-Vietnam.
Well, this is sort of like what was expected. This is rah-rah America,
right?
Okay, along with all the other
rah-rah
Americans,
you said, I think this would have been the moment when American patriotism would have just gotten no pushback whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, maybe from some quarters, there would have been people. There were people who were anti-war in the Second World War, people that were anti-nuclear, which is reasonable. But
so, did you have any surprises?
Did I have any surprise? Are we at the time where we should start?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah, I had a ton of surprises. I didn't know anything about this movie. So 1949 is surprising to me. John Wayne being a sort of flawed character is surprising to me. I figured this would be a rah-rah John Wayne at his toughest kind of thing. And no, he's a drunk. He's got wife problems and woman problems, and I thought that was pretty cool. Runs into a prostitute at one point.
Yeah.
That's kind of I don't think we're supposed to say that anymore. But what did you think of the woman that Conway marries?
I didn't quite know.
She's a knockout.
She's a knockout.
I never saw her in anything before, but when she walked, like literally the moment when he turns around and looks at her and falls in love with her at first sight, I was like, yeah, I'm there, man.
Yeah.
Like
I was like, I've seen the movie before, but like I think the first time I saw it was like I was waiting for her to do something like a John Deere letter or something like that.
Yeah, right.
John Deere letter. Dear John letter.
I'm sorry, your tractor broke down. No, I think you're thinking of Dear John, but yeah, that's funny.
Wow.
You had me. I was on board with you. I was like, a John Deere letter, right?
John Deere letter. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, so
it's pretty funny.
So I was waiting for something like that, right?
So,
but have a kid, all this other stuff.
I didn't realize it had been long enough for them to have a kid.
All it takes is once.
No, I mean 9 months for the baby to be born. It seemed like all of a sudden.
Been that long? Yeah,
because she was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that I'm sorry, I didn't tell you in the last 9 months that I was pregnant, but apparently I've had a child."
I spit out a kid,
Yeah, so that kind of surprised me, but so I might end up cutting this, but there was some interesting stuff going on. You've seen the sort of gay read on Top Gun, right?
Yes.
All the shirtless guys and stuff like. So there was this one scene where they're in
brothers.
They're in the lean-to. The brothers, they're brothers, whatever. Okay. I don't think that's. But there's a scene where they're on the lean-tos, and the one guy has just met the girl, so he kind of like wakes up and he's leaning over the other guy, and he starts talking to him. And there was something about how close they were for a second, where I was like, "What's going on?" Okay, it's 1949. That's not what. But then they have this conversation where he's like, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" And he's blah blah blah. And I was like, there's a really gay vibe with the way that they're sitting together. And then the end of the conversation is, he says, I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. He's talking about the child, but it was like, love is love, and I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. And I was like, wait, what just happened there? Like,
yeah.
And then, and it's weird because I picked up on there were more things throughout the movie. There were these bare-chested scenes, the Italian guys commenting on the men's physiques and stuff. It was very much like Top Gun. It was like...
It could be.
Because who's that for in 1949? There's no women going to the movies. There's no Magic Mike audience for films in 1949. That would have been a really weird...
Huh.
And then the last thing at the end, after he gets killed... Is there's a pin that says, our hearts were young and gay, after I'd already had this thought. And then I was thinking about the Battle of Iwo Jima, and I was just like, what do I know about the Battle of Iwo Jima? And I was like, oh, the memorial in D.C., right? Infamous cruising spot in D.C., the Iwo Jima Memorial. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe there's a queer read on the movie is all I'm saying. I don't know. I might be bringing that. I was surprised.
I think that's a bit more.
I was surprised how Jewish one character was.
Yes.
There were like 10 minutes of a Jew showing up and being super Jewish and then getting killed. But
I think the Jewish thing was like to show us, to show that
the diversity of the Jew. Yeah, totally.
Like we all died. We all bled.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm on board.
There's the Italian, there's everybody,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that bit. I wanted to say that this is part of our series of beach movies.
Yes.
We've done a bunch of beach movies.
Sure.
Some of them are like this, are pinned on the beach movies, but there's also like we did, what's your surfing movie?
Oh, the
Endless Summer.
Yep.
So we've done a couple of things like that. I don't know. Do you have anything else? I want to talk about World War II survivors. How many World War II survivors do you think are left today? This is my data. My data comes from November 23. It's a little old already, but
not many, man. Because my uncle died in like around November. Mm-hmm. I would know. Sadly, too little.
As of November of 23, about 110,000.
Wow.
Dying at 100 a day.
Jeez.
I did the math on that. That means 3 years.
Yeah.
You go through 110,000 people. If you go through 100 a day, you do that in 3 years.
So they'll be all dead.
There'll be a handful of them probably going into the 2030s.
Yeah.
But that'll be the end. I remember when the last World War I veteran died. It was right around the time Alex was born. It's like 2011, 2010, something like that. So, but that's about right. It's 30-year difference between the two wars. So if we're good on time, I guess we should talk about. Well, I talked about my surprises. What about your surprises? Did you talk about your experience with this movie? Had you watched this one?
I've never watched this movie.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
No.
Okay.
Like I said, I wanted something that was, I thought this would be a little bit lighter than it was.
Yeah. It's a pretty serious war movie, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit darker and a little serious.
Well, have you seen From Here to Eternity?
Yes.
It's kind of the same way, right? There's a lot of serious war stuff, and there's some complicated adult relationship stuff going on that kind of surprises me for a movie of the time.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's like, is that how they all were? I don't know.
Casablanca's like that.
Yeah,
Casablanca's not dark. The violence is very dulled down.
Yeah.
But the adult relationships are pretty complicated.
This one, it's out in the front. So,
did you see any nods to? Were there any nods that you know of from future film history to this film? I picked up on two big ones that I thought were an influence.
Okay, what?
Starship Troopers.
Okay.
Starship Troopers has a ton of.
Yeah.
I think Robert Heinlein might have watched this movie before he wrote Starship Troopers.
Maybe.
And then there's a bunch of stuff. And then also Rogue One, Star Wars film. The part where there's the fight on the beach at the end and they're trying to go and get things on the beach. And it's filmed kind of the same way. There's those palm trees in the background and stuff. I think Sands of Iwo Jima was a big part of that. So
I can see that totally. Yeah. I didn't see any of those. A lot of it was, for me, was what was this within like 1949. So what was it with it? Like, because you didn't have any of that stuff. Like, what would they have thought of it back then? I think,
In what sense? What do you mean?
Today, we're not proud of America. We don't think of America as like we're
Actually,
Americans.
this is a thought I had while I was watching this movie, and it's something I've come to as an adult. Like when I was growing up, I'd watch a movie where Americans are winning a war, and I'd be like, yes, we won that war, right? And I had a kind of a reckoning with that because I did feel that emotionally.
Yeah.
That's the way that I was brought up to feel. And I had kind of a reckoning with it because I realized people would talk about something terrible in American history, slavery, killing of the Indians or something
whatever,
like that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, well, I can't have my cake and eat it too.
Right.
I can't be proud of World War II but not own up to
I see where
the
you're going.
embarrassment of the bad things. So I
I
kind of have to do one or the other. I have to kind of be like, that it wasn't me that stormed the beaches in Normandy, and it also wasn't me that killed the Indians.
Yeah.
I have to find a consistent moral ground.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
And it's kind of hard because I still have emotionally a response to "Yay America" because I'm American,
Right.
But at the same time, you don't want to be like, I don't know. I think you kind of have to own the warts. And the good
I like
stuff,
that.
maybe.
No,
I don't know.
That's a really good point. I like that. But man, it's tough. Nowadays.
It is tough. It is tough. There's a lot of information out there.
All right. So, what do you think?
It's my vote.
Yeah, it is
My
your
vote.
vote.
What would you vote?
I can't tell you.
What would you vote? We always do. You can do opening arguments.
Okay. Well,
Although you're a dangerous wielder of the rhetorical weapons, I guess I should watch out for you. You might persuade me.
well, I'll use a bit of logic for you.
Okay. Not a good way to approach me. Not the best. You don't want to appeal to my logos. You want to go for my
I was
pathos.
really surprised. What do you think that Rotten Tomatoes critics is on this movie?
This is a good movie, so I think probably pretty high.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, it is. But they're killing Japanese people, blah, 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 all this
Yeah.
other stuff. Okay, so what do you think?
oh,
it
we
is?
didn't mention some of the language.
We did.
So nips and japs, I can handle that. That's what people said.
Yeah.
There's a line where John Rain refers to them as, we talked about the little lemon-colored characters.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a bridge too far, man. Like, you don't need to go there. Like, that just...
That's what it was.
You're not even talking about like, oh, I don't like the imperial Japanese regime. That's fine. I hate those people
Right.
too. But you're like,
Right.
the racial aspect of it is kind of messed up. So, but anyway, yeah. Oh, you're talking about the critics and what they thought. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good movie. I don't think you could say technically this is a bad movie. I think you've got a complicated character.
Okay.
Not a lot under him though. Under him, there's not a lot of nuance. I don't know. I think it's a pretty solid film. I wouldn't think if you were being objective, you could say a lot of bad things about it. But what do we got?
Well, I mean, the critics say 100% on this.
That it's good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So I agree with them. All right. Yeah.
They're all about this. All right. So,
So it's time to vote.
time to vote. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting because this fits into and 49 influences. The fact that it was in 49 influences my vote because it's before The Longest Day. It's before The Green Berets. It's before a lot of the other John Wayne,
Right.
rah rah, sis boom bob type of films. And I like this one. I think this is pretty good. I've never seen a depiction of the Pacific War that didn't draw on this imagery. So I think that's important. The Pacific.
Yeah.
When you watch that,
Yeah.
it looks just like this,
Right.
except it's in color. And black and white, by the way. I remember when I was in 8th grade English class, and my teacher said to us one time, she said, you can tell whether someone's intelligent by whether they can handle sitting through a black and white movie. And I always had trouble with black and white movies when I was a kid. So I remember being like, I'm going to watch black and white movies now. So I always feel like I'm a very smart person if I can get through a black and white movie. But I think they did a great job with the medium. There were a lot of tight shots, especially in Tarawa, that made it look like a big battle. But if you thought about it, you're like, there's 30 people in this picture.
Yeah, right.
And they're doing a great job. But then at Iwo Jima, you've got big battle sequences. Like they spent their money on Iwo Jima. But anyway. So I think this was great. I think it's a great war film. I think this is up there with some of the ones that I really like. It doesn't have quite the scale of The Longest Day, but it's a smaller story. So I vote for it.
All right. Well, there we go.
There we go. We are toasting this classic.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And
A little bit of whiskey.
clink, clink.
Clink.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Both of you. Oh, a John Wayne fact that I didn't know.
Okay.
His name
Okay.
is Marion something,
Marion,
right? Is
yeah,
his given name.
Yeah.
Do you know where he gets Duke from?
Dog or something like
His
that.
favorite dog.
Yeah.
He would walk around with. People started calling him Little Duke, and I realized that's where Indiana Jones. That's where that comes from.
Yes.
We named the dog Indiana.
Yeah, we named the dog.
Yeah, I didn't. That
Yeah.
was a kind of a surprise to me
Yeah.
that must have been in the decision to have Indiana Jones be named after the dog
course,
about
yeah,
the John Wayne. But anyway, this is Dave McArthur for Toasting the Classics.
And this is Dr. Professor.
God, insufferable.
Clint
Absolutely
Lanier.
insufferable. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
That's it for episode 98 of Toasting the Classics. For those playing along at home, head down to Chinatown and get some baiju for our discussion of the three-body problem. If you'd like to get in touch, please send us an email at toastingtheclassics@gmail.com. Send us show ideas, comments, complaints, and let us know if your hearts are young and gay. Check out my blog at theattractivenuisance.com and follow us on Twitter at @attractivenuisance. Our music was written by Michelle McArthur. See you next time on Toasting the Classics.